Welcome back to Mik'd Up. It is Jay Johnson Wednesdays. They are coming off another midweek victory. Is it 10-0 or 11-0? 10-0. 10-0 victory, 10-run rule in the 7th inning. We had no video because the coverage there did not work. I guess they didn't have internet. I don't know what was going on. But we're excited to have him. We're going to talk about a little bit of the game last night, a little bit of the weekend, and preview the Auburn weekend. Coach, as always, thank you so much for joining the show. And love the new mic. I think it's going to sound great.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah.
You sound amazing. You look great. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
Let's get into the conversation of the game. Obviously, everybody talked to you about. You've been asked about the Gavin Guidry stuff. He's been throwing extremely well. I know you had mentioned you had some guys you were debating on who you're going to start. Why does it go with Gavin Guidry to start the game yesterday?
Well, he was one we knew was going to pitch and needed to pitch. And I have this thing about the first inning. You're facing the other team's best hitters. I always feel like the umpire's trying to settle into the game. It's on the road. And felt like he was going to give us a good performance. And, he could be a starter down the line, whether that's later this year or next year in the future. And so we felt like it was a good opportunity. And really happy we were able to get the length out of him of 2 1/3 innings and 31 pitches, because that allows him to be at full capacity, by Friday and this weekend to contribute. So I thought he did a great job last night. I think it's the best he's thrown in a while.
I agree. You talk about the bullpen. You talk about having him available. This past weekend, we got to see Thatcher Herd in a kind of a different role than he's been. He came in the back end of game 1. And through 2 innings, looked really good. Seemed like that's kind of two outings in a row that he's looked good. And he's kind of had a feel for it. What's your take on that? What's your opinion on that? And can we see him in that role in the back part of the bullpen a lot more?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I thought he had a good start on Tuesday also against Nichols. 4 innings, 1 run. I think he struck out 6. Was really solid. And then how we lined up the end of the game on Saturday. He did a great job. I mean, faced 5 hitters, got 5 guys out, relatively low drama, came in a big spot. I mean, with the tie-in run and go-ahead run on base, and got us a big strikeout, and then a fly-out to end the 8th, and then a very, very quick 9th inning. And was really, really pleased with both his outings last week. And I think the best is yet to come for him. He's obviously super talented. Has made some small adjustments that I think are going to go a long ways, and that's a really good thing for us to finish out this season and moving into next year as well.
Coach, you talk about big spots on Saturday. I point to one spot on Sunday. So you talk about big spots, which obviously inevitably brings a lot of big decisions. Late in the game on Sunday, you bring in Ackenhausen. He gets the out. There's a quick hook behind it. Obviously, there's a big reason, big decision. Not because of who came in and how it all played out, but simply off of how little he did throw. Obviously, he was in there for a reason. Is that a decision you kind of sweat out, knowing that, hey, if this goes the other way, it could kind of struggle with it a little bit?
No, we prepare really well, and our players are prepared really well. So honestly, it was all lined up.
Yep.
Nate was going 1 hitter, Gavin was going 2 hitters, Riley was going 1 hitter, and Thatcher was finishing the game. And the only drama was we gave Gavin a pretty tough test of getting Seidel and Pinckney out. And Pinckney was the best player in the country this weekend behind Dylan and Tommy White. So, I mean, they gave up 2 hits. I thought Riley threw good to Williamson. I actually thought he struck him out, but they called it ball 4. And then Thatcher bailed us out. So it was all lined up. And regardless if Gavin had got those 2 outs, Riley was going to face the first hitter of what would have been the 9th, and Thatcher was going to go from that point forward. So nothing really changed other than we had to do it with guys on base. That was a fun game, from a coaching standpoint. And, we just once we had to go to the bullpen early, Javen Coleman really, really picked us up. And then there was that spot. Didn't really want to send him back out after 41 pitches and a long inning. And so it was Blake Money. He was the guy that was up, and it was hot. It was the end of the order right there, and we thought he could come in and fill it up, and he got us a big 1-2-3 right there in the 7th. And then from that point, for the first 6 hitters, it was scripted, and felt like Thatcher at the end of the game with his stuff, if he came in and throw strikes, he would be successful at the point we brought him in. And so the only hiccup was a couple guys got on base in the 8th inning, but that was going to be the plan from that point forward.
Through the course of these last 2 SEC weekends, you obviously, really the last 3, you've won 8 straight SEC games. You swept the last 2 weekends. You've won in a variety of different ways, right? You've outslugged guys. You've had pitching duels. You've made the moment. You've had the games kind of in between to where you've had to have the big hit or make the big pitch. This past weekend on Sunday, you ended up winning that Sunday game 13-11. That's the way it is sometimes in this league. You're gonna have to.
Yeah.
Why are you laughing? What's so?
No, go ahead.
Okay. What you came here to do? You came here to hit balls.
Just banged it out, right? So 13-11. So my question is, like, obviously sometimes on Sunday, like, you're gonna have to outswing them, right? So going forward, going into the postseason, how do you not have to rely on that? Like, what in your mind? How are you gonna manage this bullpen to where it says, okay, guys, we can score 13 runs. I'd like to not have to score 13 runs every time to win that third game.
Well, it's partly just playing in the SEC. I mean, we're playing a top 30 RPI team every time we tee it off. And so it's just flat out not easy, and you're going to get challenged. And nobody ever believes me when I say this, but it's like whether you're playing whoever the best team is or the 12th best team is, it's really not that different in terms of competition and what you need to do to win. I saw like a projection today, and it has 11 teams from the league in the NCAA tournament. Well, it might as well be 11 teams that can go to Omaha is what it is. So you're just going to get challenged. And as far as the pitching, and I don't know if it's maybe just coming from the West, like all these fields are like super small.
Yep.
And and I think ours is one of the most fair ones out there. But on Saturday, I mean, the wind was just howling out at the beginning of the game, which helped us and helps us. So it works both ways. So it just becomes about execution. And I thought Saturday our bullpen was awesome. I mean, they had to go 6 1/3 and only gave up 2 runs, and I think only 3 hits. So that was great. And then each guy on Sunday, even though it was a 13-11 game, did something well to get us to the finish line. So maybe I just evaluated a little bit differently, and I'm very pleased with what those guys did this weekend.
With the, I mean, you mentioned it, and with the amount of talent that there is in this league and how much competition you see from day to day, weekend to weekend, how has it been for you and your staff really managing injury this year? Because you guys have gone through a ton of injuries and there's really been no drop off. And so watching a team basically be well prepared to be able to go out there and do that, how has that whole thing been for you guys as a staff?
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I think it's actually one of the stories of the season that nobody's paying attention to or talking about. Everybody talks about the injuries, but nobody talks about the follow-up of, not dropping off. And that's just a credit to the players. You know what I mean? It's like a guy may not have had the role that he did at the beginning of the season. Like, I mean, Griffin Herring threw 3 innings through 20 games. And now, I mean, that's like 3 Fridays in a row we've gone to him to finish the game on Friday in the SEC as a freshman. We were just talking about Gavin Guidry, really came in and was a position player. Obviously, was a good pitcher in high school, but we didn't start that till after Christmas break. And now he's closed out a game against South Carolina. He's closed out a game on a road against Ole Miss. We got him in with a 2-run lead against a really good Alabama offense, against their best 2 hitters. Nate Ackenhausen was beat up but came back. We've won every game that he's pitched in. Thought Riley was really good at the end of Sunday's game. Javen Coleman, getting back, massive deal for us right now. So I'm just proud of the sustainability of the team and the toughness. And it's like, so what? Next pitch, so what? Next man up. And, we said it a long time ago, is like, how much adversity can we take and still come out on top? I think that only strengthens us going forward. And our team is playing with a ton of confidence right now, as they should.
Talk about Javen Coleman a little bit, and you've extended him a lot the last couple outings. He's thrown extended innings, more pitches. Is there a limit to what you think that you're going to extend him at this course of the year? As he keeps progressing this way, there's really no ceiling, or there's no limit on what you think that you can do. Is he going to be able to maybe sneak into the rotation, or is he going to just kind of be that long guy out of the bullpen?
Well, no, we have a plan for sure. Okay. Getting that first outing in, he threw 1 inning in that Wednesday against ULL and 16 pitches. That was on Tuesday. I brought him in at Ole Miss at the hotel on Thursday and said, hey, this is kind of my plan. Like, we got to get you to 30 pitches on Sunday. Like, this is a key mark. Like, if we can do this, then we can pretty much get you anywhere. And he did. And he gave up a tough homer. But other than that, I thought he pitched really good in that game. But I said, hey, you're going to feel better every outing from this point forward, because that was on 4 days rest. But we had to get that one in because we got him up to 40 or 41 this week. Maybe allows us to get a little bit further, which maybe it gets us a little bit further. And now he can do one of two things. He could come in the middle of the game like he did, keep us in it, give our offense time to catch up, or he could start as we get the pitch count up. And so I'm really excited to have him back. I think he's going to be really key in what we're doing, and it just gives us the flexibility to look at things in a little bit different way, which I think is really going to help us as we go down the stretch here.
Baseball is a game of habit, a creature's a habit, filled literally from the top to the bottom of it. And obviously, when when you find success, a lot of times you try to keep to the same things that you're doing. It's very, very clear. Like, we had Milazzo in here on Monday, and the guys that we've had in here that have talked in the past have talked about how close-knit this team is this year. Is there anything that you've done from your standpoint approaching it and trying to get the message of how important each game is, how important your teammates are, how important all these things are, to try to create the chemistry different this year than you have in the past?
Well, that's coaching, and that's leadership, and so I don't think you can get upset with players if you don't have them prepared to do what you want to do. So now when you think about baseball, you might just think about that as a skill, having a hitting approach, having a pitching plan, fundamentals on defense, but teach them to be really good teammates and connected. Like, you have to be intentional about how you work on that. And we've been very, very intentional in terms of how we've done that. And, the other part is the player leadership, and we've talked about this, and it deserves to be talked about a lot, is Paul coming in with the character he has and being the player that he is. Dylan with the player that he is and the character he has. Gavin Dugas, super invested. Cade Beloso, great teammate. Milazzo, great teammate. And all these guys want to accomplish something special. And really what we did, and it was the first day back in the spring, and I've mentioned this before, is we just took a look at all the national championship teams at LSU, and there was a lot of really good examples of super talented guys having to accept or embrace a role on the team that maybe they didn't want to. And if it was okay and you guys were part of that,
Yep.
If it was okay for your team or the 2000 team to do that, and they could do it, why can't we do it? And we're gonna need that little extra something other than just talent to be a championship caliber team. And these guys have done that, and they've done a whole lot more. And it's very genuine when they talk about it, and it makes you really proud as a coach. And I think it's probably the biggest strength of this group, on top of having really good players.
Now, I don't want to pat him on the back too early because we haven't reached that point yet, but it's pretty clear to me that the 56-game playoff mindset has really hit home with this group. Is that something that you're pretty proud of when it comes to how they approach game in and game out?
Yeah, for sure. Consistency. And I mean, it's so hard in baseball because the game is so hard, and you fail, and the mental grind of really being at your best and testing them. They've passed a lot of those tests, and I don't feel like we haven't shown up ready to play one time. Have we played our best every game? Absolutely not. But they care, and the care level is high, and the want to level is high. And it's really good players, and they can, adjust midstream too. Like, if we're not at our best, they can find a way to get a little bit more out of it. And then I think last night's a really good example, because I think the previous two Tuesdays, losing bothered them a little bit, but it was the response. Like, I mean, that Alabama series took a lot out of us,
Yep.
Mentally and physically. And I could kind of see it in the bodies and the body language of the team, but I also saw this hyper focus, we're going to find a way to get this done and play well last night. And that's just a credit to who they are as people, and that has staying power. And you can focus on the things you need to improve when the mindset and the approach is right day in and day out. And that's what their tough mindset allows our coaches to do.
When Milazzo came in the show on Monday, he talked a lot about, one, he's extremely impressive. Like his mind, his baseball mind. I asked him, I was like, "You want to get into coaching after this?" Because the way he speaks and how he does. I mean, you've probably seen it, obviously. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, just the way he goes about it and how he talks
Calling
to the
his own
pitchers.
pitches.
I mean, he's awesome, right? And so his personality is A+. Like, I don't think he's probably the glue guy in the locker room, I'd imagine, right? And so he talked about how special. You just mentioned the group of guys and the veterans are, but more in particular, like his competition, right? Him and Travinsky have been here. They came in the same year. They're competing against each other. You pinch hit Travinsky for him because you wanted the homer. Travinsky comes through the homer. He said he was the most excited guy in the dugout because he knew he was going to come through it. How do you decide on, especially now with Neil out, how do you decide on what catcher you're gonna start that day? Is it based off the offensive matchup, or is it based off who's on the mound for y'all and who catches them better or not?
Yeah, it's both, and that's a great story about Alex, and totally authentic. Like he is awesome. Matter of fact, we were in like a huddle, and he said something. I was like, after you're a pro Milazzo, we might have to bring you back here. He gave some speech. I'm like, we might have to bring you back here as like the recruiting coordinator. And he's like, oh, Coach, we'll be running this thing if you do that.
Yeah, he's impressive, man.
Yeah, it's just like any other spot. Who we pitch, who we play in left field or at second base, whatever. Like what makes the most sense that day. And at that catching position, it's important because they touch the ball every single pitch. So some of it's our hitting matchup against the other pitcher. Some of it's maybe who catches somebody, maybe a little bit better. Maybe it's I want offense early, defense late. It all kind of goes together, but you mentioned those two, and obviously with Brady, who's super talented, I'm super comfortable with all of them, and I think our pitchers would tell you, like they literally don't mind who's behind the plate, and they trust them, and they've all done a really good job, and they're all capable of being a starter, and I look at all of them as starters, and their attitude has helped them all be successful and help us win, and that's awesome.
You mentioned a little bit about trying to take advantage of the midweek games after a kind of, I guess, a two-game schneid, if you want to take that. I wouldn't call it that after you sweep back-to-back SEC series. But we had somebody in the chat say that they showed up in droves in Hammond, Louisiana to come see LSU play. Is there something to that when you go on the road and you see teams that or at least opposing fans that are going in and you see the juice in the ballpark to where it maybe gives your guys a little bit extra edge where you're like, okay, this does matter, as opposed to a series where it's like, all right, it's Tuesday, we have to take the bus to Hammond. Like, it'd be easy to write it off, but when you see the amount of juice in the ballpark, is that something that your players take note of?
I actually brought that up to them last night. Like, we play in front of big crowds every weekend, but I was like, hey, look around at this for a second. Like, all these people came to see you, and very few times in your life is that really like the case. And so, like, let's utilize that, and they did. We played very well last night. As far as the home, I don't think we had a lack of effort. The previous 2 weeks. I feel like Nichols played a special game on defense. They had a couple pitchers, gave them everything they could. They got a couple clutch hits and deserved to win. And UL, I mean, they used 2 starting pitchers, and they're a really good team. And we had some guys out and this and that. So I think it's kind of disrespectful to say
that. It's no big deal.
I think it's kind of disrespectful to say, like, we weren't ready to play it. And that's not ever the case with our team. Like, the game's hard. But they responded in a good way last night. And that was an awesome environment. The one thing I didn't tell them is, J.R. Teagues, the AD at Southeastern Louisiana, is on the NCAA championship committee. And so, I mean, it is a first-person impression our team got to make last night. And I didn't really want to change or add anything to the game, but he sent me a nice text after the game, and basically like your guys are as advertised, which is a great thing. Nice. For somebody that's in that room that put eyes on us in a real game. And so I thought that was a real positive thing about last night's game.
Speaking of that room, speaking of the postseason, there's only 11 games left in the regular season. You have 3 series left. Y'all go on the road to Auburn. Right, Auburn is a returning College World Series team from last year. They started the season all a little tough. Now they're playing really good baseball. They just went to South Carolina, took the series. You go and play that at home. It seems like they are playing. I don't want to call them desperate, but they're playing for their playoffs, their postseason lives. They're seeding. They're trying to get back in there, trying to make a run back into the postseason. I know you're diving into the scouting report. It's only Wednesday. You have the rest of the week. What do you see so far from Auburn? Like, what's the challenge that they bring? Obviously, you're going on the road, so that's always a challenge, even though y'all have been really good on the road. But what do they do that pose issues to y'all?
Yeah, really good lineup. And you said it, Mikey. They're playing very good right now. They have a hitter named Bobby Pierce. I feel like he's like 25 years old because I recruited him like 5 years ago at Arizona. Not just the last year, like well. So he's a good player. I feel like some guys get more attention, but he's super dangerous. Hit a few home runs last weekend. Ike Irish is one of the best freshmen in the country. Ware has really good numbers. Stanfield, like they have a really, really good lineup and a lot of guys that can hurt you. That typically play well at home. And as you said, it's a lot of guys that have Omaha experience. And you throw in the edge of, hey, you kind of got to do it, and that can happen to anybody in the SEC at any time based on the competition. But it should be a fun weekend.
Yep.
Literally, the rest of these 3 weekends we have left they're all going to be exactly like the ones that we've had. You have to play well to win 1 game in the weekend, and you have to play really well to win 2, and you have to have a great weekend to win 3. So. Should be just like all the rest of them. It'll be a good competitive battle. It's a team that I also think is capable of making a deep run in the postseason. So we'll get their best shot, and that will make us better as we go forward.
As you're looking at the season that's been played on the whole already, I thought there was maybe a 10 or so game stretch where the team was pretty hot early on. You guys have found a way to get it done throughout what has been so far the schedule right now. As you're going into the back end of this thing, how do you feel about the outlook of where you guys are getting health-wise, how you guys are playing every day? And at the end of the day, we all know you don't have to be the best team, but being the hottest team really matters. How do you feel about where things are going right now?
Yeah, I think the message that we've preached is preparation and consistency. And I think postseason success comes down to, can you make those games just like a regular game? But if I look at it a different way, if you approach a regular game like a postseason game, then you don't have to change anything when you get to the postseason. And so I think that is a mental advantage our team has, is they've shown up every single game. And so I'm excited about that. And as far as the play, we're always trying to get a little bit better. It might be a bunting game. Like last night on the bases, we advanced on a ball in the dirt 3 times. That led to 3 runs. And those runs could become invaluable if that's like in a postseason environment. And so we're staying on top of that. There's still things with personnel we're like kind of trying to sort out. And that's a day-to-day thing with college baseball. So I feel really good about it. I know our players – they just know it's about baseball. Like those postseason games, it's not about anything but baseball. Can we play really good baseball and playing our character as a team with really good fundamentals and highly competitive, and they trust themselves to do that. So the best part is we just need to be ourselves, and that's a really good place to have peace of mind going into games that really, really matter.
Coach, I appreciate your time. One more question before I let you go. We talked about injuries, we talked about the back end of the season, but guys are starting to get healthy. How great is it to have Paxton Kling back? He comes in, hits a home run. He's kind of getting back in the mix. You're starting outside of the guys who are seriously injured and aren't coming back. The other guys are starting to make their way back into the field, just giving you more depth and giving you more guys more options. How good is it to see him back on the field? Because you've mentioned on here multiple times how talented he is and how much of a different of a dynamic he brings to the team.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, and it's happened in the 2 Alabama games he played in, and then last night, ball goes up in the air and he's out there. It's caught. There's no in between. He's a legit defender. He threw a guy out at the plate last night. Obviously hit a homer on Sunday. So it really, really helps. And with that being said, I think Braden Gobert has done a great job. I think Josh Pearson's done a great job. Like, I'm really comfortable playing any of those guys. It just kind of depends on the day, the matchup. Who's hot. It's just like, it's not one against the other, just what makes sense for that day. But Paxton's a really good player and helps our dynamic as a team. The thing that's great to have about him is you could start him and feel great about it. He can pinch run. He can play defense. He can drive a baseball. So he can impact any game whenever he comes into the game. So that's a nice bullet for us to have ready to roll.
Coach, I don't know if you knew, but the LSU Gold Series is out for the LSU baseball team, and one in particular moment caught my attention from you. You showed a little bit of fire after the Texas series. I was just wondering if you knew that the cameras were on after that happened.
What are you talking about?
When you gave the whole team a "let's fucking go" into the middle of the huddle, and then had to bleep it out.
You know, if you really knew me, that you wouldn't be as surprised at that.
I'm very aware.
Get to know him better.
I mean, with the players and the staff, I mean, that's the trust tree. So,
Absolutely.
You know, everybody on the outside, like, you know, they want me to lose my crap and go crazy on the umpire. But at the end of the day, like, while the game's going on, I have to make really good decisions. But these guys, they play hard, man, and they care a lot. And as a coach, you can't ask for much more. So, you know, when they step up and do it like that at the most important times, like, I'm going to get excited with them. Now, they wanted me to do it on Saturday night because that was a great comeback against Alabama. And I said, no, we got to get ready to play tomorrow. But then after a tough win on Sunday, I gave it to them again.
There you go. Love that.
There we go. Speaking of, you talk about making tactical decisions, Coach. Are you playing 4D chess with these challenges? What are we doing? Here? I mean, you got that one. I'm just talking about whenever you go and I don't know if you're doing it to take a tactical advantage where you know you're going to lose the challenge, but you want to tell.
My God! Okay. Sorry.
I think you're 1 for 12.
I think you said something about chess. Like I didn't know what you were talking about.
Yeah, 4D chess. You're playing a mental game.
I have no idea what that even means.
Me either.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll talk about that. So I'll give you one as an example. Like, Jordan Thompson hit a foul ball at Ole Miss that was probably foul. But if they say it was fair, that's a run. Like, that's like, for me, it was worth it if, hey, maybe we didn't see it right, or they look at it and then change it. I mean, if we don't challenge it, it's just, strike two? Like, I mean, you might as well, like, go for it. There was one, and I don't remember who it was against. I believe it was against Kentucky, where I knew we weren't going to win, but I needed a little bit more time for who was warming up in the bullpen, like they were coming in the game.
Yeah.
So by having them, you know, challenge, it gave us a warm-up. There was one where I wanted to disrupt the rhythm of the opposing pitcher. So there's a lot more going on sometimes. And then some, it's just late in the game, and you can't take them with you. It's kind of like a basketball coach taking time
Coach,
out.
don't-
So you
Don't
might
get
as
that
well
nugget
use-
of gamesmanship away now. I hate that in there.
Whether you're challenge.
Well, that's fine. I don't know that the whole country is watching Mik'd Up, but hopefully,
Hopefully, eventually. But that's good. I mean, that's strategic, and that's kind of what we thought. We just, Lloyd wanted to ask you because that's what he predicted. So you've fueled his ego a little bit right there.
I'm
I
sitting
think
very
he's
close
right.
to the dugout now.
Yeah.
Coach, I'm picking up on your signs too. You gotta watch out.
I feel bad for you too because you have to see him that close to the dugout sometimes. I don't know if you like that.
yeah, no, that's a little odd.
I'm with you, Coach. I'm with you.
Me too.
I didn't ask for any of this.
Coach, look, I appreciate you as always coming on here. Enjoy the weekend. Good luck this weekend, and we'll follow up next week. And then I actually will be in Hoover, so we'll see you out in Hoover when I get to the SC tournament. So good luck this weekend. Talk to you next week.
All right, sounds good.
All right.
Have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
Appreciate it. Didn't watch my media pass. So